Is somebody supposed to be talking? Oh, I'm supposed to be talking because that actually apparently means that we're recording. Because we don't have theme music anymore, so we can't really figure out when we're actually doing this. So it's always really super awkward when we come in now. We really need to work on that. But considering how low budget this podcast is, would you expect any less?
I'm actually working
That's right.
Music right now.
Go for it, Stead. That's right. It is time once again for the Too Many Guys soccer show. Yes, we were off last week. Had to take a brief hiatus for life. It happens every once in a while. But that's fine. We're back this week. Twice as bad, twice as ugly. I'm joined by, first and foremost, my afro. It has really taken on a life of its own after 8 months. I feel like it's begun to infiltrate my brain and it's now causing weird, abnormal body movements. But that's besides the point. Although it may have its own thoughts at various points in time. If, for some strange reason, I start to like Liverpool, you can blame it on my hair. It's not my fault. It's just completely taken over. But for actual guests, we have my partner in crime, the producer, my friend in all things podcasting, Mr. Stead. How you doing this week?
Well, I will say that guys like me and Matt, who started going bald in our 20s, cannot sympathize at all with you and the actions of your hair, of your afro. So outside of that, things are going okay, I would say. If you hear lots of background noise, that's because we have transitioned the baby back to her room. So hopefully she'll start sleeping in there now. As you can see, I'm in different settings. I'm finally starting to slowly reclaim my basement. But if I have to abruptly get up and leave, that's because she has completely tipped over her crib and is trying to wake up the 5-year-old. So needless to say, it will be an interesting night, and I doubt little sleep will be had this evening.
The funs of parenthood. This thing, I just realized this thing's about 8 months in the making. I'm not sure whether it's going to make the full 12. My latest, I keep pushing the benchmarks back on this. My latest one is, well, I'll cut my hair again when Man United makes the Champions League. That could buy me another couple of months, Matt. That could buy me a couple of years. Who knows? Matt, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. Yeah, Stead, you're really excited me about parenthood. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, Mike as well, man. From someone who can't grow hair, just grow it out as long as you can.
Absolutely.
That's all I want to say. Yeah, just love it up, man.
And at least you two can grow a full beard, because I can't even do that. So I don't want to hear it.
I got my new license the other day. And I went to the photograph, but I have like 2 white patches, but because the pictures are now in black and white, it looks like I just have 2 like empty patches of beard in my face, and it's a really bad picture. So
thank you for letting me know, because I now need to go in and get a new license after all of these years. I figured out recently that I have to give up my New Jersey driver's license. It's like giving up your soul. I've officially now been forced to claim Maryland. Not quite yet, but coming up, I'm going to have to claim Maryland. I'm really, really not sure how I feel about this. Like I'm having an existential crisis. I just feel like they're taking away a piece of my identity. London Sean, how goes it over in beautiful, sunny England?
And beautiful, sunny England it is, Mike. It goes very well. In fact, I would even add that I'm ecstatic. North London is red again, which is fantastic. England played an absolutely fantastic game of rugby against France at the weekend. Probably one of the best games of rugby union that has been seen for many a Six Nation. And on the beard front, I always promised myself I would only ever grow a beard when Spurs won the title. So hopefully that'll never come round.
I know that there's a gentleman who might come on later who will have who might have something to say with that. On the Six Nations front, it was a very interesting weekend of rugby. Of course, Wales beat Italy.
Yeah.
What is Italy's 5,000th consecutive Six Nations loss? Why they're still in the Six Nations, I don't know. I mean, clearly they're in the Six Nations because you have to round out the numbers. But I thought the England, France, and the Wales Scotland game, or England, France, and Ireland, Scotland, were both really good games. Eddie Jones got England back to looking like what they were, and this was an opportunity for them to kind of get back in the running as the top team in the Northern Hemisphere. You know, France had been creeping up on them. Actually, France had surpassed them in the world rankings prior to this game. It's been a bit of a disappointing Six Nations, but tis to be expected when you have a number of players, including, Sean, 3 of the Saracens who haven't actually played any competitive rugby this calendar year.
Correct. Yeah, Saracens have their bottom severely smacked. So yes, you're right. 3 of them haven't even played. Yeah.
Maro Toje, who had a couple of boneheaded plays in the last game, came up with a big try. Instead, if that man ain't a unit, I don't know what is.
Unbelievable. I mean, watching that game, you're looking at him going, you know, if he was over here, he would have coaches in multiple sports just drooling to get him somewhere. Because I doubt there's any popular American sport that he wouldn't be able to excel in, considering our obsession with size and speed. So absolutely, that guy is a unit. I mean, 6'5", 255, 260, athletic, fast, probably can run under 11 seconds for 100 meters. I mean, that doesn't happen that often.
Actually, when you said 6'5", 260, I thought he was more like 6'7".
Yeah, I mean, he could be. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they
I know Sean's going to look it up for us, but
but a lot of times they measure these guys when they first break into the professional ranks, and they're so young at that time. A lot of them continue to grow. I mean, these guys are growing until they're 20 years old. So if he was, and they just kind of keep the same measurements that they had when they first kind of broke in. So you never know what this guy is. And you see when they pick him up to get the throw-ins, I mean, the opposing team's got to throw it over his head.
You know, like New Zealand and Australia, New Zealand especially has some big guys, right?
Yeah, well, they got
especially like wide.
Mm-hmm.
England has a couple of really immensely tall dudes on that team. Maro Toje being one of them.
What did you say, Sted? What was your guess on the?
I said about 6'5", 260.
I thought my guess is about 6'7",
Pretty good.
275.
Pretty good for looking at someone on television.
Yeah.
He's 6'5" and 253.5 pounds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Nearly spot on.
He's
spot
a
on.
big,
It's a
big.
That guy's a unit, though. The athleticism is just what's so striking about him.
Yeah. I
If
don't
he
think he
ever wants to
started
retire
playing
from rugby, he's got a future as an NFL running back.
Yeah.
I think he started playing when he was like 19.
Yes, he was very late to the
developer as
game.
well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's no way he played running back. They put him at tight end and have him match up against a linebacker. He'll score.
The only reason why
he's a faster Rob Gronkowski.
The only reason why I said running back is what is he used to doing?
Fair enough.
Getting a pitch.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And carrying a ball through the hole.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at him and say, all right, here's a guy who's used to getting the pitch and running the ball upfield through the hole and dragging a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, why mess with a good thing and ask him to start catching a forward pass when this is what his bread and butter is?
Yeah.
And there is not a running back in the league that comes at you at that size. I mean, you know, you get into the third, fourth quarter of an NFL game and Maro Toje's running at you and he's been running the ball 30 times and he's bigger than some of the offensive linemen. You're going to see dudes is just going to start making business decisions.
Yeah, they put weight on him too. Because you see,
like
he's not very.
Jacobs.
He's not. Yeah, he's like Brandon, but he's not very big for his frame. You know what I mean? He could easily put on it and move just as easily with another 10, 15 pounds. So it's funny though, because you see a player like that, and then you see the Welsh team, Wales is dominating, by the way. Granted, they had kind of an easier game.
They're on track for the Grand Slam.
Yeah, but you look at them, dude. There are guys out there They look like they're about 5'10", 5'11". I know there's muscle in there somewhere, and they don't look like they move very well, but man, it's running into brick walls with those guys. They just stand you up and say, no, you're not, you may be faster, but you're not getting through here. And it's amazing the way they just look like they should lose week in and week out. And after the first couple of minutes of the game, you go, I just don't see anybody getting past that line. It's really, really impressive to see, which is kind of why I kind of like jumped on the Wales bandwagon this time. But man, that defense is just is strong. I mean, those boys look like a bunch of they look like a short, Hadrian's Wall, just standing there, like try to get through, and you just can't do it.
I love the analogy. Look at the South African team from the Rugby World Cup. Like they definitely didn't have the biggest players on the face. Faf du Plessis goes maybe 5'7". They had the one really skinny guy out on the wings,
and they got that blonde kid that couldn't stop scoring tries. They couldn't stop him.
Yeah, they just didn't look like. But rugby is all about size, except for when it isn't. It's all about speed, except for when it isn't.
Yep.
There's no hard and fast rule to putting together a team, except New Zealand's going to figure out how to do it.
But it looks like the Welsh team, though, that they just seem to know where their teammates are, and they know how to close that gap. They know how to close the hole, and it's like they can take, as you said, it's speed matters until it doesn't matter anymore. And playing against them, it just doesn't matter. You can't seem to penetrate them. So it's like you can run all you want, you're not going to get through. Because the way they shift, the way they slide, the way they pivot, you couldn't. It's just so funny when you see them play, and then you see the end of the game, them shaking hands, and you're like, that guy looks like my neighbor who, just washing his car every weekend. That's what he looks like. So it's really impressive. I'm very impressed with that squad.
I know at least one Welshman who's on the football banter chat and Man United chat, Man United Rob, who will appreciate hearing that. And we'll let him know that you.
I will. I got Man United Rob. I'm going to shoot him a message, be like, "I'm pulling for your boys, man." They're sitting pretty good though. They're on 19 points, man. Looks like they're going to wrap this up.
It is totally in their hands. Yeah. I mean, it's theirs to lose.
Yeah.
And
I forgot to say as well, actually. So 2 other things. One, I'd like to thank Mr. Justin Thomas for nailing our 25-1 bet for him winning the Players' Championship at the weekend. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And of course, we are exactly nearly a week to the year that Britain came to a standstill with a lockdown for COVID, because what brought the lockdown forward was the fact that we let Cheltenham go ahead. So Cheltenham is our big horse racing week, which starts tomorrow morning. And very much looking forward to that, although it will be very strange watching it without any spectators this year. But the government were severely criticised for having let the 200,000 people go to that event last year. And of course, this must nearly be the anniversary of the Liverpool Atletico Madrid game, which also went ahead.
The Liverpool Atletico Madrid game would have been a couple of days ago, because Friday, it was Friday the 13th here in the U.S. Well, it was Friday the 13th everywhere when stuff started coming and closing down. And I just put it in proximity because St. Paddy's Day was supposed to be on a Tuesday last year.
Yes, correct.
And we had found out on Friday that we were going to start remote learning. And then by Saturday, they had said that they were going to shut everything down completely, because to that point, we had believed that we were going to get 250 people in for St. Paddy's Day. And the good old Harp and Fiddle was counting on that 250 people and St. Paddy's Day to help them make them through it. Now, I will say, honestly, I do not typically go out on St. Patrick's Day. Number one, it's amateur hour. Number two, because it's amateur hour, when I do go out, strange things start to happen. There was that one time down in Clearwater, Florida, where I ended up singing "Oh Dandy Boy" with Angus Young from AC/DC.
Wow.
That actually happened. So every time I go out on St. Patty's Day, something weird happens. I thought it was great last year or 2 years ago when I went out on St. Patty's Day. I didn't end up singing with anybody I didn't know. I didn't put $300 worth of food and booze on somebody else's tab accidentally. And I walked out with my clothes and only my clothes.
That's very good.
I walked out with all of my clothes, but only my clothes, because previous to that, I picked up somebody's shirt.
Okay.
So weird things happen to me when I go out on St. Patty's Day, so we don't normally do it. Anyway,
I spoke to you after the Man City United game. Did you manage to get out of that pub with your clothes on, the one that you were talking to from? Or
Yeah, mostly. Well, that was my birthday match, and everybody came up and surprised me, and we had a good time, and it was a great get together to watch the City Derby, which for the last 2 years has been my birthday match.
Very good.
So
Couldn't have picked a better day.
And for the last 2 years, it's been my birthday match, and they've won.
There you go. I'll have to write to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah.
And tell him.
You are my Solskjaer, my only Solskjaer. You make me happy when skies are gray. If there's one thing that man has done, it has been to figure out how to beat Man City at the Etihad. I mean, that is one level in this game of Premier League soccer, your English soccer, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has figured out how to do. He has an immensely positive record against Man City at the Etihad. Matt, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but what is it like? I don't know if he's ever actually lost there, or if he has, it's only been once. He was unbeaten there all of last year.
Yeah, I don't think he's lost as a coach at the Etihad.
Yeah, I know he was unbeaten at the Etihad last year. Clearly, he won there this year. He just has a really good record against Pep Guardiola, and especially at the Etihad. I don't know what it is, but that is something that he does well. So, yeah, I know we weren't on last week to really fully recap that match, but just like United, coming off a kind of blah performance, go in, get a win, and a pretty comprehensive one at City, and then turn around and let a 90-plus minute goal in against AC Milan. And we'll talk to Andy DeHammer when he gets on about this weekend's West Ham United game, which was settled by an own goal. But I think that was more because of how David Moyes set his team up. But thanks for transitioning me to the actual sport that we're here to talk about, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, throwback to the good old days when there were 4 of us on a show and we had no real plan and we just chatted. I felt like this weekend, kind of with 8-9 games left to go, and I want to get your thoughts on this, gentlemen. I felt like this weekend kind of set the league, and if you will, it kind of divided the league into almost, you want to say, 4 mini leagues, a couple of mini leagues, right? You've got United, Leicester, Chelsea, and to a certain extent, West Ham competing for the Champions League. You've got the likes of Fulham competing with Newcastle to see who can get out. And then you've got that group sort of, in the middle. Villa.
Like an amoeba.
Yeah. The ever-evolving thing.
Yeah.
That is basically everything in between 6th and about 14th in the league that is theoretically competing for Europe. Although I will say, based on how Wolves look today against Liverpool, I think we can say that anything that they had to do in the European conversation is pretty much done. They're going to be a tough out but there just aren't goals in that team at this moment. Taking out Raul Jimenez and Diogo Jota and not being able to adequately replace them have just left them without goals. I brought it up in the chat. Adama Traore's stats this year are abysmal.
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 goals, no assists, and 4 yellow cards in all competitions. Here's a player who we were talking about not even just last year, basically being unplayable and how great he was. And it's just, I know Jota and Jimenez are important to what they do, but if you're a winger, tell me you can create something. And he had that last minute cross against Liverpool that just went nowhere. So I just think, let's give Nuno Espirito Santo, Uncle Nuno, credit. He will always be a podcast favorite, but I just think this is like Klopp at the end of his tenure in Borussia Dortmund, where he sold so many players that he just had nothing left to work with. And there's nothing there. Jimenez going down. And it looks like Rui Patricio might miss a couple of games now too. So I worry about that.
Yeah, you don't think Jimenez going down was definitely extraordinarily detrimental, but you wouldn't expect one player to cause that much of a drop, because even though you can talk about the injury bug and everything that's stricken teams, they've pretty much kept the team they came into the league with outside of Jimenez together. And Traore, I don't know if he thinks he has to now kind of have a hero complex or something like that, but he's playing very erratic and his ball control seems to be suffering a little bit. He's always been a bit wild going down the flank and using his pace and his strength to create. But man, you have to wonder where just the fact that he had quality finishers around that can make him look better coming from the wing or not. You could speculate on that, but they were already reporting that they were talking of selling him as well, and his fee has gone down considerably, and they might move him anyway, just because they're not sure he'd be able to recover and leave on a free. So I feel for Wolves, but I think after this weekend, I think they're bottom half, and I don't see how they could not be.
So Matt, Sean, I'll start with you, Matt. What do you think of the league now? I mean, do you think that we're I don't want to say that the table's set, but do we kind of think we know where teams are going to be competing? I know British Will is going to say, oh yeah, Liverpool's still going to jump up to second, but if we're being real about it, I think do you think we're starting to have an idea with 27 points or 27 points left to play for we know where a range of where teams are going to start to slot in?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of like, what was it, Jose's second season with United, where things kind of just started falling into place after a while. Like once everyone kind of knew the title was set, and even though it's like you'll see teams continue to keep her top 4, obviously, and that'll be something that we keep our eyes on. I think in terms of the teams that are on the bottom side of the table, well, not the bottom side, but like that middle table, but they're not going to compete, for Europe, and they're kind of safe from relegation. I'd even say now, because the recent win, you have your Southamptons, your Leeds, your Wolves, your middle of England country teams, Crystal Palace as well, probably safe. Brighton, I think, got a win this weekend, I believe. Yeah, they did. So I think that those guys are gonna basically, just fight it out for those positions, but they're not going to shoot up the table. I might put Arsenal there too, although they did win this weekend. I think the top 4 race is also just kind of narrowing out just overall. I don't trust Everton to get a win anymore now. Every big game they have,
not when they need it.
Yeah, every time you need them to win, they're just, they're like Spurs. Every time you want them to win or get like a result, they're just like they can't do it. I I think, Chelsea's defense is really good. I am pulling for West Ham. I really want it. But yeah, I think we're settling in, man, overall. And
We'll talk to Andy about it. I mean, it was a tough loss over the weekend, but let's be honest. And Chelsea is playing really, really well. Tuchel still has not lost. But
which means
still,
they're going to lose at some point soon, and you have to
So
wonder they're going to
boring.
lose
God.
they're going to lose 2 or 3 games soon. It always happens. They're going to lose something. I'm not going to say that Chelsea's a lock at 4. I'm not.
No, they're not.
They
Yeah.
still West Ham still have a game in hand, and if they win
And I
that
think they
game
still
in hand,
play.
And
think they still
consistency.
play.
West Ham has consistency that, yes, Chelsea's playing well now, but again, they haven't lost yet. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. And they may lose a lot.
Set up. He cannot. David Moyes cannot go out to Chelsea and play those games like he played at Man United. He will get beat.
He's not. He's
Well.
going to have Lingardinho available to him, so he's going to be absolutely.
That was what it was.
It
Sean,
was.
what do you think? What do you think? Are we pretty much looking at teams kind of settling into a band of places where they're going to be at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at the table now, big win for Leicester on Saturday against Sheffield United. So I think the top 3 will come from City, United, and Leicester. I don't know in what all. Well, obviously City are running away with the title. So I don't know whether Leicester can pit you guys for second or not, but I think the battle is there. There's obviously going to be a battle for 4th place. I just looked at Chelsea's fixtures. So their next run of fixtures are against teams right at the bottom. And I think if they can get 9 points from the next 3 games, which looks totally plausible, because they have Sheffield United at home, followed by West Brom at home, followed by Palace away, followed by Brighton at home. So even the next 4 games, I would expect them to get 12 points. And I think that might just put them out of reach. So that's my prediction for top 4. I think West Ham have got a good chance of going for that 5th, 6th place. It's interesting. I haven't looked at our competition recently where we tried to predict the table before the start of the season, but that will be quite exciting.
Los has to get that back out.
I think that.
Get that back out
Well,
again.
he does have to get that back out. And the
Gotta
one
see if
that
I'm
we
out of
had
11th yet.
on this podcast is different. The one thing I will say about West Ham, in a lot of ways, they have their destiny in their own hands. They still have games left against at home too, and we'll talk to Andy when he gets on. They still have home dates against the 2 teams above them, right?
Yeah.
So
and us next weekend.
Next
We
week is
play
us,
them.
yeah.
And you guys.
I'm not looking forward to that game.
Uh,
I'm looking forward. I'm not.
And the other thing
West
about
Ham
it
right
is
now. I'm looking forward to it.
Leicester's run-in over the course of the last 9 games is really it's pretty tricky. They have United in the quarterfinals next week. They come, and then the international break. April week Easter they come back against home against Man City. They follow up with West Ham away, and then at the end of the season, listen to this last 3 games: away at City, away at Chelsea, and then home to Tottenham. I mean, that is a tricky run-in for a team that tends to falter down the stretch, and the longer they go in European competition or any sort of competition, the worse for them. If there was a team that I could see kind of sliding down the table just based on last year's evidence, it would be Leicester, which goes to say, United, with every passing game that they don't lose, is looking more secure. They have a less tricky run-in. Yeah, they have Spurs away and Liverpool at home and Leicester City at home, but those games are surrounded by Brighton, Burnley, Leeds, Villa, Fulham, and a Wolves team that we already talked about. So, I know, Matt, you're making that face, but theoretically, these should be games that we win or don't lose. And oh, by the way, did you realize that we've only lost once in the league since the calendar year started? The problem with that for United is that one loss was to Sheffield United. I don't know what to make of it, but I do believe the table is really starting. Yeah, City, but we're starting to see. I think it's pick 'em between Chelsea, Leicester, and West Ham for the third and fourth Champions League spot. At this point, with 9 points in hand over West Ham, I see it hard with that running to see where West Ham is going to pick up 9 on United and drop them out of the Champions League. Liverpool's looking at an 11-point deficit to get to Will's aforementioned second place.
Yeah.
If they do that, I will give him all the credit in the world, but I think even he has to admit at this point in time that that's kind of like toast.
Yeah, we can't forget that Liverpool obviously still have Champions League they're through to the quarters, aren't they? And Chelsea obviously look as though they're going to get through to the quarters as well. So, those two teams will have other things to worry about. And do you think you guys are going to get past Milan? That's quite a tasty looking second leg.
I think they go in and they score the goals and get by.
Yeah, I know it sounds stupid. I know. Don't bet your house on this, Sean. But I think the fact that we're going away, second.
I've lost my house already, Matt. Twice.
I lost it. Well, maybe you can get it back. I think the fact that we go away. The thing is, too, Milan had a lot of injuries, so I think it really depends on how, if they can get people back. I don't know if Zlatan's going to be ready. They dropped a game.
He'll be on the bench.
Yeah, so we'll see. I do like the fact that we're going away, and I like the fact that it's we the onus is on us to get something. I think that kind of pushes us to play at our best. And we brought some players that have been injured, like on the trip. So I know that we brought Pogba. I know we brought. I don't know if they're going to play, but we brought Cavani. We brought Martial. We should win there. But I want to go back to your point really quick, if I can, if that's okay. Sean, about Chelsea, it's going to be really interesting to see how I think they're one of the most boring teams to watch right now. And I've watched a few of their games because Tuchel is just focusing on their defense. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they play against teams like West Brom, like Burnley. Burnley actually creates a ton of chances. They, I think, have the third highest expected goals across the whole season.
And one of the best goalies in the league.
Yeah. So I wonder how they're going to play against teams that are kind of going to be defensive already. They kind of had a trip up against Southampton. Sheffield United didn't give them the easiest game. So I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of 0-0s or a 1-1. And that's an opportunity for West Ham. And an outside chance, unfortunately, for Liverpool too. I don't want to admit it, but this win was kind of big.
Chelsea have kept lots of clean sheets. So that's always an advantage in football. You only need to nick one at the other end, and that's it. You bag the points.
Yeah,
I would agree with you that they are quite boring to watch, but I don't think he's quite yet worked out what his best attacking formation is, has he? Because he played Pulisic and Ziyech against Leeds, which didn't seem to work particularly well. But very interesting that he's refusing to play both Abrahams and Giroud, which I don't quite get.
He doesn't know what his best attack and jumping it. Chelsea and boring is what Chelsea do best. When you think about all those Mourinho years, this was not a compelling offensive team to watch for.
The 15 goals against the year or something like that.
Yeah, the reason why, one of the reasons that Mourinho had a falling out with Abramovich in the first place was Abramovich wanted more attacking football, and Jose said, we win with defense, and he did. And it just seems like whenever Chelsea get into a bind, if you want to talk about the Chelsea identity, Sean, it's like old school, old school Arsenal.
Mhm.
1-0 to the
Yeah.
Arsenal. It's like 1-0 to Chelsea, walk off and declare victory, shut down shop and don't let it happen.
Yep.
And there's something to be said about that. It's not the most compelling thing. And I understand, like, that's not what's going to put butts in seats. It's not what's going to get eyes. The sort of swashbuckling 2, 3, 4 Marcelo Bielsa leads is what gets people excited. Like, we've talked about how much fun Leeds games are to watch because they can be like 9 goals, right? But that's the old adage in soccer that applies in football that applies to soccer. Goals win games, defense wins championships, right? And that's true.
But if you're talking about entertainment, I think that's what the Premier League's suffering at the minute. And I think the fans not being there has something to do with it. Because I'm looking at the league table, and how many teams would I go out of my way to definitely watch? Well, City are always entertaining, but apart from that, I'm struggling. There's not that many teams playing what you would call entertaining football.
Oh, please.
I
not
do think
yellow
Man United
cards
has
right
an
there,
entertainment
man.
value, but Man United's entertainment value is based on that expected defensive calamity. No, there hasn't been a lot of. But you also need to look at the COVID lockdown, how much time these guys have spent in isolation, how short the preseason was, to understand that you may not be getting the best of the finished product. This time in the season is going to be just a slog to get through it. It's just going to be, it is in a lot of ways a game of attrition. One thing, though, that y'all did bring up, though, and here is where the fun starts. European qualification and how Liverpool and Arsenal can still screw everybody. So, right now, as it stands, Liverpool would not qualify for the Champions League. All right. But they're still in the Champions League. However, if they win the Champions League and
they're pulling a Chelsea.
Arsenal win the Europa League, it would push the 4th qualifier down to the Europa League, which would push the 5th qualifier down to the Conference League. And somehow, this is where it's key for you all to screw Tottenham.
That's okay.
So just keep in mind, through the Europa League, you need to root for yourselves in the Europa League, and you need to root for Liverpool in the Champions League, because that's the best way to ensure that Spurs get screwed.
And what happened? Do the winners of the Champions League get automatic buy-in the following year?
Remember the year when Chelsea won? They finished 8th in the league, and they ended up, and they went through. And I believe Spurs got pushed out. Yeah,
Spurs got pushed out.
Yeah.
But we can only have 5 teams.
You can have 5 teams if the Europa League champion is from England. That's the only way you get 5 teams. So the maximum number of teams that England can have in all of Europe is 8. 5 in the Champions League if the winner of the Europa League is also an English team who didn't otherwise qualify for the Champions League.
Okay.
2 in the Europa League, and 1 in the Conference League. Right now, Spurs are sitting in 8th.
Yeah.
Which would almost ensure that if Liverpool wins the Champions League, as it sits right now, if Liverpool wins the Champions League and Arsenal wins the Europa League, Spurs will not qualify for Europe. So that's why you guys need to compete and be big fans of Liverpool in the Champions League and yourselves in the Europa League, because it almost totally ensures that you will mess over Spurs. And anytime y'all can't finish ahead of Spurs but can mess them over somehow, isn't that what Arsenal fans like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my annual curry bet with my best friend who's a Spurs fan, and we went evens this year. So, yeah, that curry is still in the balance.
I don't know. I think maybe because I started following Arsenal when they were really good, and so Spurs are just so inconsequential to me that I really don't care about the rivalry. I mean, I hate Manchester United. Like that's the team that Arsenal was competing with at the times when I started really getting into it. So it's kind of funny.
And we used to be friends, Stead.
I was late to the whole Spurs chatter because I was like, yeah, I get it, but like Spurs were so inconsequential for so long, and now that they are, it's like, oh, they're our lead rival. I was like, well, yeah, but when they win, I don't think about it. I don't watch a Spurs game and pull for them to lose. I watch Man U games and go, I really hope they lose.
Maybe what I'll do is I won't cut my hair until Spurs wins the league.
Yeah. Dude, you're gonna look like
I
I
will
did
have
when I was
some Bob
20s when I had
Marley looking
dreadlocks
around.
down on my stomach.
Yeah.
Oh, so we want to pause real quick, and we want to bring in the only guy on the Too Many Guys soccer show who actually does sports for a living
And is happy with the way their
We
team is
always
performing.
have to straighten up when he comes on because we actually want to seem like we actually have a clue of what we're doing, even though we know we don't. Andy the Hammer, welcome to the show. How's it going, sir?
It's pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing fine. We Matt and I already talked trash about the West Ham game ahead of time, and how Moyes set up his team to basically not until United scored. But I wanted to get your take on the game first.
Yeah, you mentioned that the team lineup. It almost worked. If it wasn't for that own goal, like we would have gotten a result, and I think that's decently impressive. I guess I would have. I don't want to knock David Moyes too much just because I've agreed with almost every single thing he's done as manager this season, but I would have liked a little bit more of an aggressive outlook for that match, because it's like if you want to pretend you're a top 6 club, which is what we're, I guess, trying to do this, like at least play like it, like we went, I guess it was a 5-3-2 formation, but it was more like a 5-4-1 a lot of the time, and it could have been like a 7-2-1, and sometimes it wasn't pretty, wasn't a very pretty performance, and nothing going forward really besides a couple half chances here and there. So that was frustrating, but I guess at the same time, 1-0 at least looks a little bit better than it could have been in years past. I mean, we've set up that way and against other teams before, and we get thrashed 4-0 still. So I guess I'll take it for what it was and move on and say, hey, we can pick up points in other matches. But I guess I would have liked to see just a little bit more of a go for it attitude, just because we are pretending we're going to be in Europe.
I think the thing, and Matt, maybe you'll agree with me, the game changed as so many do after the goal. Clearly, to me, Moyes' first thought was stop the counterattack. And it looked like he was playing 6 or 7 men, as you said, Andy, in defense at points in time. After the goal, all of a sudden, West Ham came to light. Before then, they could barely get the ball to Antonio except on an outlet. Then all of a sudden, they're creating chances. They're pinging Dean Henderson's goal. They came to life. You almost feel like if they had had that bit more of adventure in the first, say, 70 minutes of the game, that it really could have been a different sort of thing. I mean, Matt, how did you feel about the first until the period up until the own goal?
I'm actually going to say I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually agreed with Moyes' approach, because we can say that all we want. Like, yeah, they turned up the game, but when the game opened up, you had Fernandez had a shot that was really well saved by Fabianski. Greenwood hit the post. We had another break that Dan James messed up the pass. That's 3 potential goals right there. And if I'm thinking Moyes, I've already played United twice. I played them in the FA Cup and we took them to extra time, and it was 0-0. So I know I can grind a result out for 90 minutes if I need to. And it was essentially almost the same exact lineup for us. And then, or you could go back to the game that we played away against them, and West Ham were wide open. They scored 2 goals or back to back almost, and we ended up winning 3-2. And it's like, I think it's like, well, it's really hard to tell a team, especially a team when you have like attackers like Lanzini and who was the other guy that came on, Andy?
Ben Rama.
Yeah, Ben Rama. It's like, it's one thing to tell them in the beginning. It's like, all right, I want you guys to play fast and open until we score and then close up shop. It's from a coaching perspective, it's very hard to do that. You can't just you're thinking as an attacker, like it's there for the taking. I can score again. And I think Moyes is actually kind of right with his approach to kind of see the result through. He's away. Has an awful record this is even in Everton days. Like he has a terrible record at Old Trafford. I guess his just style just doesn't suit that ground really well. So I actually kind of agreed with him. And plus he didn't have Lingardinho. What are you going to do? I mean,
nothing apparently. That's our
guy scores everything for you. He's got 4 goals and an assist in what? 4 games?
I think like 5 matches he has that. Yeah, he's been phenomenal. But yeah, no, you're probably right. Matt. Like it almost worked again. Like, it's not a fluke header, off of that kind of ricochets, unfortunately, off of Craig Dawson's head. And just aside, Craig Dawson, that's like the first thing he's kind of done wrong in his entire time. And it wasn't even really his fault. Like, it was unfortunate to kind of see him.
He didn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's been so great. And I've loved everything he's done.
You almost feel, though, even if he hadn't headed it in himself, somehow that one was going to go in just based on the play.
Yeah.
I thought that they had really good possession. Bruno Fernandes had a chance that just absolutely should have gone in, but didn't. But that was the one where you're like, I didn't even realize it was an own goal until they showed the replay. I thought that we actually had the possession on the position on it to get it in. Overall, I mean, I thought it was the typical game that you need. And to go back to something that Sean said about beautiful football, these are the games that I see more often in the Premier League that come, these sort of grind them out results. We want to talk about the beautiful games that ended up 3-4-0, but more often than not, it's these grind them out, get the 1 goal, walk off, declare victory type games, because you have so many teams in the league who are like, well, we don't want to get housed, so break us down, see what you can do. The teams that can do that are the ones that win titles. The teams that can do that occasionally are the ones that maybe get into the Champions League. Man United's problem the last couple of years has been the inability to break down those teams and win those games that ended up that way. Arsenal has suffered at times by surrendering that first goal and not being able to score it again. But the 1-0, 2-0 grind them out wins, that's what gets you into the Champions League in the first place. But Andy, it's not all's lost.
You were 4th last time we spoke, Andy, weren't you?
What's up?
I said you were 4th last time we spoke.
Yeah. I don't even know where we are now. What, 5th, 6th?
You're 5th now. So
you're still 5th.
That
it doesn't
4th
matter. It's like, we're
control your own
there.
destiny.
Yeah, I looking down and get dizzy. It's like, woo.
That, my friend, is the problem. So here's the good news. You're in 5th. You got a game on hand on Liverpool. If you win said game in hand, you're tied with Chelsea on 51 points. That's the good news. The bad news is the run-in does not make for pretty reading, my friend. Arsenal at home next week, Wolves away, Leicester at home, Chelsea at home. It's
that's the big
not
one.
Everton at home. It's not exactly the easiest run-in in the world for you guys.
Yeah, but I think if West Ham's going to if they deserve anything, you're going to need to beat Newcastle, Brighton, Everton, whatever teams those kind of teams that come along, and then you're going to have to nick a point here or there against the big boys. And like we've done that to this point, which is why we're in 5th place. And I think if you can continue to do that down the stretch, we absolutely deserve where we are. And so I look at that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's intimidating, whatever, but we're kind of playing with house money at this point. You know, like we've done pretty well. I think, you know, even if we kind of fade off a little bit at the end, you know, I think some fans will be disappointed in that, but I'll still be pretty proud of where we were without a striker on the squad. Like, we do not have a striker. That's kind of pathetic, but you know, what we've done so far has been pretty good. You just have to nick a point here or there. You know, you never know. Like, if Moyes decides, like, hey, let's just park the bus and do counterattacks and get a header goal off a corner against Chelsea, like, whatever, man, that'll work. A 1-0 will work. So yeah, it doesn't look great, but I'm also not worried at all, which is a great position to be in, because I think in past years, I mean, like at the end of last season when we were battling relegation, I looked at those fixtures and I was like, yeah, we have not shown to this point that we can do anything against those teams. Why should I believe that, you know, this team could even not get relegated? You know, this year we've shown that we can do it. You know, that's pretty cool. It's a cool position to be in.
Yeah, I believe you
this
guys
point-
are on 11 more points before the even Man U game started than you had the entire season last year. We're still
Yeah.
we're still 10, 8, 9 games left to play. So, you know,
They've got a full
gotta be
10
feeling pretty
games left
good.
to play, and they're 11 points higher than they were.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that leads to this question. At this point, 11 points better than you were with 10 games left to play. 30 points still on offer. Conceivably, with winning the game in hand, tied on points with Chelsea in 4th place, sitting in and around the Champions League conversation. On the off chance that West Ham slides out of the European conversation, how disappointing would that be?
Yeah, it would feel a little bit like 2016 when Slaven Bilic got us really close to Champions League, and we fell down and we ended up getting a Europa League qualifier against Astra Juju or whatever the heck it was from like Romania or like some. And it was like some nothing team. I don't even know what they are, but we lost both Europa League. You know, both.
That was
both,
sad. I'm sorry. I remember
It's
that.
pathetic,
That was
yeah.
pathetic.
It was
bad.
bad.
Like that was
Yeah,
terrible.
but
Like,
that was didn't Dimitri Payet leave
Yeah,
that
that was-
year, and they
that was
never
part of
brought
it.
in
Come
anybody
on,
to
man.
replace them.
But
Talk
still,
about
I
a
mean,
Swiss
the
League
same-
club
the
in
same-
Romania that has the
Yeah.
local baker on the squad, man. I mean, come on.
I'm just saying, like that. Like I fear, like if anything, that's what I fear, because we've done so great, you know, right now, and 2 of our best players are on loan. Does Lingard stay full time? I hope so, but
Well, that's my next question: is there's every report out there that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is ready to let Lingard go. David Moyes wants to keep Lingard. We are at the point where it's a matter of negotiating fee and contract. Do you feel like the board can get it over the line to keep this guy?
it's almost like it's like that double-edged feeling when he scores. It's like, oh, amazing! Like he scored again. It's awesome. We're winning a match. Then you're just like, you look at the price tag and it's like, shit. There's 2 million that just got added to that. You know, like every single, it's like, that just keeps rising. So it's unfortunate. I think the board is gonna be able to keep him, to be honest, just because I feel like they might realize that if they don't keep him, if he does a really good job to finish the season, that the fans would just go mental. And that hasn't stopped them before. I mean, they don't really give a shit what the fans think. But in this case, I think it's such an easy decision to say, like, oh, he's already competed well in our team. It's not like you're taking a gamble on, whatever it is, like a Sebastian Aller, who you spent 45 million on, and he's never played a minute of Premier League football. You kind of, if Jesse finishes this season very strong, it's like, yeah, he has this great track record in this team, in this system with Moyes, that we know that, we just plug him in next season, he's going to do the same thing, or at least you hope. So I think,
I promise you, he's not going to cost as much as Hilaire did.
no, he won't. Yeah, hopefully not. I
don't think
20 million floating around.
I think
yeah.
And
25.
Lingard's going to push to get out of
Okay.
there too. I get the sense that Lingard is having more fun playing now
He's
than he
having a
has in
blast.
years. He's having a
He wants
blast,
to
and he
get
really,
down there.
yeah, and he likes the culture of the team. He loves it's just fun. It's just like
Yeah.
And he
I've never seen him have this much
trusts-
fun.
Yeah.
Trust Moyes,
He-
and this, honestly, for his career, and full credit to him. Like,
Mhm.
I wish that it could have gone better for him at United, and it didn't end the way that it did. I thought that he had the potential. It always looked rocky for him at United. He was a guy who didn't get his full start until he was much older than a lot of players coming through the youth academy, and it was always fits and starts. He scored some big goals. He's been a great player. I thought that he did well. I'm happy for him. I think West Ham suits him,
Mhm.
you know, and if he can find the joy that he had early in his career at United with West Ham, he can be an asset to West Ham. And even more than that, he can go back to being an asset for England, right? And that only benefits everybody, right? You know, it is clear that the last year and a half, 18 months at United, his off-field issues, whatever, just haven't been working. And it's nice to see him have an opportunity to go down there, like you said, Stead, like you said, Andy, go to London, get into the West Ham team. And let's be honest, West Ham ain't always the easiest place to play.
Mm.
Find a rhythm, find a place, find a way, find a coach, find a culture that he's willing to play. And we have what could be one of the few kind of redemption comeback stories that we actually get in Premier League football. I hope that if the price is 2025, you know, 20 with a couple of escalators for gold scored and stuff like that, I hope that they get it done. I can, like I said, I can guarantee you, he won't cost you as much as Hilaire.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And-
I hope it gets done too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For both him and us, obviously he's been a good presence in the team, and he seems like he does get on well with the team, like very quickly, especially with Declan and
Mhm.
even Mark Noble, like kind of taking him under his wing, which is kind of cool to see as the captain. Who
They were together around the England setup, as I remember.
Yeah. Well,
And
Declan and Jesse. Yeah. Mark has never had his foot in the England squad.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it could be a great fit for both teams, or for both parties rather.
And I've never heard anybody, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard of anybody really complain about Jesse as a teammate.
No, it's all fans. Like, fans just don't like that he's like flamboyant and dances. But like, you listen to, player, testimonials about him. I mean, they love him. He's like, he works hard. I told Andy this in a text. Like, I mean, the reason why Southgate would start him in the World Cup is because he's one of the hardest workers. Like, he's kind of like everything, you'd want as a coach. He's a guy who wants to express himself on the field, but he's going to like put his nose down. He's like a perfect West Ham player for me. Like, I think that he's not in like a bad way of like, I think he'll actually excel. And I think he could have, I don't know if it's going to be Payet levels, but he's going to have a great impact on that team if he stays. I really do. I think that, I think what really hurt Lingard was that when teams sit back, he has trouble breaking them down. But when if he can run at pace and he knows, he can run in kind of like straight lines and the decisions are pretty easy for him on the break, he's going to excel. And I really hope you guys sign him not as United get free, like essentially free money because he's an academy player. He's such a good person. When you read about him, when you read his player tribune, you just want him to be happy. And I think he'll be so happy at West Ham. So
did you see his goal? I think that was last month against Tottenham. When he breaks, he dribbles past like three guys on the run. Like, that's something that West Ham has never had since.
Yeah.
Like we have not had someone just make a goal.
He does add a air of flair and technique and creativity to the West Ham side that they haven't had, and just the right amount for Moyes. Now, this also runs into the issue that we have at so many teams, and we're seeing with another pod favorite, Mr. Pulisic, which is what happens when you bring in a player who fits in well to one team person system, and then all of a sudden another coach comes in. I feel like Jesse does well with what David Moyes wants him to do, even though he's more associated with subsequent coaches. He got his start under Moyes, right? So Moyes is familiar with him from the youth setup. He knows what he can do, and he trusts him, and that's why he brought him in the first place. I worry though and it's wholly possible, given West Ham, they slide down the table next year. A year from now, Andy, we're sitting here talking, Moyes is out. Who knows who is now in the team, and all of a sudden, Lingard's back out on the periphery.
That would be a concern, and I wouldn't put it past West Ham to close their eyes on a phenomenal season. We've seen it exactly with Slaven Bilic. I mean, he basically to the Europa League, and then the very next season we're down in 15th, 16th, and he's canned. I mean, back to square one. It just, that unfortunately is something that happens here. It happens a lot of clubs, to be honest. But
that's the thing I worry about most with them is, and how concerned are you as a West Ham fan? And I know that it's hard to think about this, this far into the future right now. Having had the exploits in Europe under Slaven Bilic, the concern would be like, are you ready to go back into Europe? Do you understand what the rigors are going to be? How much extra money that you're going to spend? And coming off COVID, is the board going to be willing to spend the money necessary to be competitive in Europe and the league? Or do they think that Moyes can do it with something that resembles the team that he has right now? Are they going to invest in this team one way or the other? I guess is the real question.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I don't want West Ham to be in the Champions League. Just because I think that level is like, we could get absolutely slaughtered and it'd be embarrassing. And like, even if you try to get Champions League quality players, whatever that might be, I don't think we could, or if we did, they wouldn't fit the system. It would just not work. The Europa League would be cool. But again, like I
Andy, you're frozen.
I have a bold prediction about West Ham too. I think Andy's gonna like it.
Oh, he's back.
Andy, try again. You
He's
froze
back.
on us.
how long did I miss there?
About
30
10
seconds.
30. All right.
About 10
Did I
seconds.
mention that? Did I mention that I didn't want us to be in the Champions League?
Yes. We got
All
that.
right. No, I got it. I like the Europa League. It'd be cool. Admittedly, it'd be, like, very exciting to be watching Thursday matches or whatever the heck it is. But which I never watch because we're not in the Europa League. So but I would be concerned. Like, every single team has lost money, West Ham among them. Like, this board hardly makes shrewd business decisions in the best years. So I would be concerned. Like, is the depth going to be there? Or are we going to be relying on, Mark Noble playing as a number 10 like we're doing right now, which is just hilarious. But we need depth, and we need smart depth. Like, if we just kind of throw willy-nilly and say like, hey, let's get in a bunch of guys that may or may not fit the system, may or may not work, and they're on high wages, like, think like Yarmolenko for a second. Like, he's a quality player, but he obviously just does not fit in the system, and he makes £100,000 a week or whatever. Like, that is unfortunate, and it's kind of just a waste. So it's a concern, and you almost don't want to get in too quickly.
Do you ever feel like, and I'll put this out to everybody, you ever feel like West Ham would be the perfect candidates to go into the Europa Conference League? That one step down before you get to the Europa League. Hey, you get the participation trophy and the try at Europe before you go into the Europa League, and you get to go at it.
It would work. Like, that would work. I think that's a good point, because like, I feel like if you put West Ham in too soon, it's either they're going to flame out instantly and it's going to just be another like Romania disaster like it was last time, or you're going to just be constantly like trying to balance the best of both worlds. That hey, you're going to put out a strong squad every week in the Europa League. Then come the weekend, you have ragged, tired players. You have injuries build up. It's just going to be a disaster. So I almost feel like maybe some training wheels for Europa, or whatever it is that
Conference League.
It's a great way of building up a fan base.
Yeah.
Because West Ham have always been very good at offering cheap tickets, for midweek games, and yeah, that's how clubs hopefully survive and how you keep on filling your stadium.
As much as I had been against this third-tier European tournament, I'm actually feeling like after this conversation, I'm like, West Ham for the Europa Conference League. The European starter kit.
Yeah, West Ham
And
Villa.
Everton, that's where they can go as well.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. I actually see a lot of the similarities of Moyes with Everton. Like the thing that got him the United job, I see with West Ham now. Like people forget, it's kind of like Andy. I know you see it too. Like every single time there's a new coach with like a college team, right? What do they always say? They have to give him years to like recruit, right? Yeah. He's still playing with Slaven Bilic players, man. Like. And I know that we always like talk about like, oh, they're going to invest in him, but they did spend like 40. I know Haller didn't work out, but they spent 45 million on him. Like
Pellegrini,
I think that
spent the money, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was
Pellegrini. Yeah, that's Pellegrini's players. I'm sorry, but it's like his team is like I'm looking at ages and they're up there. And Moyes, that kind of Moyes always finds a way to get like. He used to get those things out of Leon Osman and Steven Pienaar and all these players that like
Cahill.
Yeah, Cahill.
Yeah.
Hey, Pienaar had a great run, man, at Everton. Great run. Yeah.
And he went
his only mistake was going to Tottenham. That was his only mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
What did he become?
It's
shit.
like,
what do we think of shit? Tottenham.
I actually, that's my bold prediction. I think West Ham are like, I think they're going to be the Everton that I kind of grew up watching. Like they'll be in and around it. I mean, you guys were talking about Champions League and only 5 teams, being able to make it. The last time 5 teams from England made it when it was the old format was when Liverpool won the Champions League, and I believe Everton.
No, that was when there were 5 teams in the Champions League when we won the Europa League. That was the last time there were 5 English teams in the Champions League.
But when Liverpool won the Champions League, didn't they not qualify? Didn't they not get top 4? And
no, they were already qualified.
You're talking about in 06?
Yeah, like 06.
No, there were 5. You could not have you couldn't have.
I thought that's why they made the rule that you could not have more than 4 was because of that. It became like a mess. With
no,
Everton,
because you couldn't have more than 4 when Chelsea won. The last time that England had 5 in the Champions League was when United won the Europa League and finished 5th because Jose Mourinho basically gave up on the league late in the season and said, I'd rather focus on winning the Europa League because that's a trophy and an automatic qualification point. And he was also right because by winning the Europa League, our UEFA coefficient was so high that they actually got like a number 2 pot as opposed to like the number 3 or 4. So it's only been very recently that you could get 5 teams into the Champions League.
They had to because Sevilla kept winning Europa League.
Well, that's what it was. Prior to that, if a team that won the Champions League qualified outside, it would knock the 4th place team down into the Europa League. That's what happened with Chelsea and Spurs. So it was like that for a number of years. It's only been about 4 years. 5 years at the most that you could have, that any team could have 5 teams in the Champions League. Spain were actually the first team when instead you brought up the Sevilla. Mm-hmm. Spain were the first league to have 5 teams in after Sevilla won the Europa League. They were the 5th team. That was the first time that one country had 5 teams in the Champions League.
I think Sevilla finished 5th that year in Spain too. I think it was kind of funny, you know.
Yeah, no, that was the first
think they did.
time,
I
and
could
they
be
made a big
mistaken,
point
but
about it on they're the first. Spain is for, and they
Yeah.
actually, as I recall, Sevilla got knocked down to the Europa League and ended up winning
And
the
win,
Europa League.
and won it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
they
won
did.
the Europa League again.
That's exactly what happened. Yep, they won it.
That's
So Andy,
go for it,
Sorry,
Sean.
Mike. sorry,
go for
before Andy went, I'd like, what is your prediction for the weekend, obviously? Because
Against Arsenal.
you've got 2 people on the panel that have an interest to hear what you've got to say.
You know, I wouldn't be shocked if we have a little bit of a, you know, maybe Antonio has a Rabona goal, then maybe a red card. You know. No, you know, I think it'll be a tough match. I think West Ham will give up a lot of possession to Arsenal, but the counterattack is fine for what put Jesse back in the team, and you know, always a threat on corners. So I think West Ham could nick at least a point. You know, I go in. That's a weird thing. It's like I go into these matches against top 6 clubs now, and I'm like, yeah, I think West Ham is a good shot. That's definitely, it's a weird feeling for me, but yeah, I kind of go into this weekend thinking, why not? You know, like why can't West Ham at least get a point? They might not. I mean, it's entirely possible that, you know, I don't know the situation of how things are going with Aubameyang and stuff like that, but you know, the Arsenal's, they have a lot of firepower, so it could be difficult, but I like.
I think, to be fair, you
defensively.
deserve more at the Emirates at the start of the season. I think you
Yeah.
were very unlucky to lose 2-1. The teams looked quite equal on that day, although it was obviously 5 months ago. But yeah, we've proved we can win without Aubameyang. We don't need Aubameyang. We can leave him on the bench. It's fine.
Oh, shot
Hey,
fired.
Can't get to work on time. Get to work. Come to work.
Andy,
Yeah.
so this is probably the most important thing that we need to talk about tonight. And the reason why I say this is because I'm pretty sure that Sean's 3rd mortgage is riding on this, because 2 of them are on stuff that Matt lost.
Yeah.
Give us some things that we can bet on in the NCAA tournament that starts this week.
All right, I am covering this, so I have thoughts.
I figured that's why I wanted to have you on, because I need to fill out my bracket.
Yeah. I'm big on San Diego State. First off, I also don't think Michigan. I think if you're going to pick against a number 1 seed without Isaiah Livers, Michigan is a little bit, you know, they're a little bit handicapped. They're not as good. He's a big kind of perimeter presence that they need as an option for. Otherwise, teams are just going to collapse on Hunter Dickinson and kind of take him away down low. So maybe Michigan losing against Colorado or whoever they might face. Matt is holding up the Iona shirt. They're a 1st-round exit. You can just chalk that in, right?
Patino, baby.
I'm messing.
Patino.
No, Patino's good. You know, you never know about them. But Ohio University also, they're a high-scoring team. They have a great offense. You know, watch out for them. UVA, they're against 1st round. UVA is not going to practice. They're not out of quarantine until Thursday or Friday. Then they're traveling to Indianapolis. They play on Saturday. That is not ideal preparation for UVA. So watch for the Ohio upset. Ohio then could go on to upset Creighton, because I'm not a huge believer in Creighton either. So yeah, those are some of my. I think I picked Illinois to win it all, but that
I
might.
really like Gonzaga
bias.
this year. I
Yeah,
really
no,
like
yeah.
Gonzaga.
Yeah,
I
Gonzaga.
mean, I understand
Yeah.
that, you know, they came through the West Coast Conference and they didn't play a lot of people in the regular season, which is understandable. I also believe that there are a number of factors that have worked against Gonzaga in the past, one of which is the regional thing and who you play and where you play them. With the tournament being strictly in Indiana, I think you're going to see a lot of things play out differently. And it's going to throw up a tournament champ that I don't think that we see coming. Of the teams that I think that have the best shot to win it, the one that I feel most comfortable with would be Gonzaga. I'm going to go out on a limb, Andy. And this hurts. This really hurts. Because, and you'll know this, The most common upset in the NCAA tournament is 5-12.
Mhm.
Villanova's a 5 seed. They're playing without Colin Gillespie.
Yeah.
And it hurts. Now, my Wildcats have delivered me 2 national championships in the last 5 years, so I'm okay with that. I think and I was going to tell Sean, but he stepped off. The parlay bet that I'd be putting down right now, I think all 4 12 seeds win.
That's ballsy.
I'm gonna say
you got Georgetown
one of the
against
fives
Colorado.
win, and then the 15
I think Georgetown
makes it
beats
through.
Colorado.
I don't
think-
think so.
You don't think Georgetown? I think Georgetown's
Colorado
coming in
could-
off of.
Well, Georgetown's coming in off a lot, but you got to just understand like Colorado, that team is good. And I don't think people
That team is
understand.
good, but I also think that Georgetown finally figured out how to play. And the thing that they figured out how to do, and this gets you through tournament time, they figured out how to defend the 3 and shoot the 3.
Yeah. A lot rides on Javon Blair scoring.
Mhm.
One off night from him, and it's a pretty easy.
They don't have a whole lot there, but getting
Yeah.
through the Big East tournament the way they did, that was huge.
Yeah. It
Um,
was.
If you give me the spread and maybe tease a couple of points here and there, I'll take all 4 12 seeds. Now, I'll talk to Sean later and I'll tell him how to actually place this bet so he doesn't lose his shirt, because there's a way to do it. So don't do what I just told you, Sean, and do a parlay with all 4 number 12 seeds over the number 5 seeds.
Right, okay,
Although I do think that all 4 will win. You won't. There's a way to do it. You won't make as much money, but you also don't. You won't lose as much either.
Okay. I'm filling my boots at Cheltenham tomorrow anyway, so I don't mind.
Oh, well, there you go. You know what? Oddly enough, and this is where I'm going to really, 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 really date myself. Because, Sted, I'm old. You know who the person I knew who filled out the most consecutively close to correct brackets?
7th grader.
No, Pete Carrill's wife.
Oh, dag.
That always happens. It's always someone who like doesn't know.
You know, Matt, Andy,
go by color.
you may know who Pete Carrill was. Crazy dude who was the coach of Princeton once he upset UCLA in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. Great
Generator
game.
of the Princeton offense.
Yeah.
You know who knew
Mhm.
more about the NCAA tournament than he did? His wife.
Yeah.
Never lost an NCAA bracket bet.
I do. I also do. I know you mentioned him earlier, Andy, but I do want to give a shout out to Hunter Dickinson because he went to my high school. So go Stags.
Oh, I didn't know you went
Apparently,
to
though, you
DeMatha.
don't want to because he
Yeah.
has massive beef with Maryland because he thinks they didn't recruit him.
Yeah, that's. I can't say because I cover that team. So, but I can't say that.
Yeah. Well, I was really let down because my team is also Notre Dame, who's also their coach is also a DeMatha alum, and secretly
Is Mike
Dickinson
Bray still the
actually-
coach at Notre Dame?
Mhm.
He used to
And
be the coach
and
at
Hunter
Delaware.
Dickinson, yeah, he was. Hunter Dickinson actually verbally committed to Notre Dame, and then he decided to rescind it. So it really sucks that
How
he
do you
did that.
not go with John Howard? All right, Andy, we want to thank you for coming on. Thanks for your pointers, especially on the NCAA tournament. Sean
course.
wasn't with us at that particular time, but I'm sure he'll go back and look at and make a couple of bets based on that. Don't blame. He said he's going to the horse races tomorrow, which means that he might win enough money to lose money on the NCAA tournament. So don't feel bad if he comes back in a couple of weeks and he's already talking about he's on his 4th mortgage. That tends to happen. We know how Sean's gambling is going based on how many times the house has been mortgaged.
Or how many times he sends a pretty rude tweet over there to Matt.
Yeah. Well, he's done with Matt's predictions.
Yeah.
He says it, and yet he still goes with them.
Hey, wait
You know, I
for
don't know.
MLS to start up again, right?
Let's do it.
Or actually, it's
Flip that
I
coin,
did
man.
send- I'm not gonna lie, I did send an email to my friend to try and get somebody. See you later. And I did try and get somebody from. I asked a friend of mine if he could contact Atlanta United because he's down there and he knows a bunch of people in their communication shop. asked him, can you get a guy from Atlanta? Can you get somebody from Atlanta United to come on? And then I realized it's probably not worth their communications director. It's time to come on to this lowly rated podcast. I'm like, you can just send anybody. At this point, we're so lowly rated, you could send the doggone janitor and he'll fit in fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Speaking of janitors, we do want to welcome in our one Tottenham fan. Los, how you doing?
With El Gato, Gato.
We have a desk in my workplace that was built by one of the teachers there, probably 20 years ago. And we had the kids come and put graffiti all over it. Of course, they had to be, nice. They went and put graffiti over it. And of course, they put my name on it. It says, hey, Mr. Rosali, he's the best custodian ever. So I guess I miss my calling.
Hey, I used to do that, man. First job out of high school. Loved it because everybody left me alone. It's great.
I did that too. So here's we spent a little bit of time talking to Andy about the Man United West Ham game. I wanted to bring in Los and talk a little bit about the North London derby. And
Okay, not the West London derby. Mark.
Not
Yeah.
West, no.
West.
It's true. Chelsea Fulham was up,
It's the East
Listen,
End
that's-
boys and the West End girls. That's what it is.
Y'all made me think about something for the first time in a long time. I knew I was right. It was the North London derby. Don't get me wrong. We weren't talking about the East London derby. I know it's North London. Jeez.
Well, somebody didn't.
Yeah, the North London derby.
Yes, you're correct.
North London is red again. Sean Stead. It was an interesting game. I mean, you had the early injury to Heung-min Son. Eric Lamela with the almost Gordie Howe hat trick. He had the beautiful goal and the red card part of it down, but he missed the assist. And I don't know, Los, just because I know where these guys are going to go and I want to give equal time and attention, so I'll let you go first.
Okay, I don't know where they're going. Actually, I got a good idea where they're going. But go ahead.
I know where they're going to go. Give me your impressions of the game, how Jose Mourinho managed it, the setup. I thought that Spurs came out a little stale and disinterested, but I wanted to get your take on that.
Okay, I'm going to go with I've seen them come out stale and disinterested. That isn't what it looked like to begin with at the outset of the match. They were coming out and they were looking to press Arsenal's defense and looking to make things happen. They weren't sitting back and doing the Jose, let's park the bus and to get the breakaway. Not as they had routinely been seen to be doing in the first part of the season. This was more of an offensive setup and predicated, of course, by the start of Gareth Bale up front.
Did you
with,
just say Gareth Bale?
Gareth. I said Gareth Bale.
No, I heard a different pronunciation, so that's my fault. Keep going.
I can't help you with drinking.
Mike, you're not one to talk because it's David Moyes, not David Moyes, as you always call him, by the way.
I'm American. I can say what I want.
You can.
But it was
I'm American.
I'm going to go with okay. It was a game of ups and downs for sure, which has been our season all along. It's been ups and downs, and I will say this: that if I was a neutral, that was a hell of a match. Even with after the red card, there was no let up. There were a couple opportunities for Spurs to equalize late in the game, and it could have very well been a 1-1 draw, a 2-2 draw. Excuse me. Could have very well been. But and so if you're a neutral, that was a hell of a match. If you're a Spurs fan like me, you're disappointed. You felt like you could have come away with a victory, but at the end, after the red card, all you could hope for was a draw, and it didn't happen. But it came close. which is, this story of the season. We're getting there, but we're close. We're not quite where we need to be. But the injury to Son did not help. That's, of course, it's not an excuse. All your guys got to play. They're professionals, and so you put another guy in there. Lamela comes in, scores an outstanding goal. It's got to be goal of the month. I mean, it's already early March. That's got to be goal of the month.
I think that's a Puskás Award nominee at the end of the season.
I agree.
Could very well be. It's not as good as his one that he had earlier in his career, where he actually
they showed that one where he got a little bit of height on it.
A little bit of height on it, and the keeper's like,
he got.
I showed that 4
He
times.
nutmegged one player and sent it by 2 others into the corner. I goal of the month is selling that one short. You
got to start somewhere, man. That's got to be goal of the month, and then from there,
we can look at goal of the year. I definitely think.
And it's only March.
I'm willing to put a stake in it and say
we're halfway done with March.
I think that one's going to be on the Puskás Award nomination list.
Very possible, very possible. And hopefully they don't disregard it because he got a red card later for the stupid flailing of the arms. That is an old school type method. I mean, he's an older player, but that's an old school type method to kind of ward off the guy. But you got to bring the arm down. You want to do that, you bring your arm down. You can't have it up here. You're going to hit somebody in the face. And that's exactly what happened. And he didn't get straight red on that. He got a second yellow, which I guess was deserved. It didn't look like a straight red to me. Definitely a yellow card, and he already had one. So, there you go, Lamela. So, of course, you're not getting any love from the Manchester United fans who thought that he should have been red carded back when we beat you guys 6-1. But, that's another story. He's good for that. He's good for that, what we call shithousery.
Always love your take on stuff. The one thing that I do want to, and again, before I unleash the red side of North London on you.
Release the Kraken!
Yes. It has been a kind of steady march down the table since the fall. How are y'all?
It went like this. We were here and we came down here, and then we came back up here, and that's where we're at.
But it's kind of been the trajectory has been more here than there.
We're still only a few points out of top 4, so it's anything's possible with about 12 games left, right? Anything's possible.
Well, no, it's not 12 games left. It's closer to 9.
Points is points, man. That's 27 points. Anything can happen.
How comfortable are you feeling about their ability to pull it back right now? Honestly, based on how they're playing.
If you ask me how comfortable I feel, not very comfortable. It's not comfortable at all because this team is loaded with talent and he just can't seem to put it together. I will say this, they're looking good in Europa right now, but what happens when we meet a familiar foe, which is probably going to happen. We'll probably end up playing another team from the English Premier League at some point. But these other leagues, we seem to have a pretty easy time with them, easier than what happens normally in the Premier League. But and of course, Dinamo Zagreb is not doing themselves any favors with their coach having to step down because he has to go to prison, so he won't be there for the game on Thursday. So, but that's another story.
So you're sitting in 6th place, but you got a game in hand. Win said game, you're theoretically tied on points right now with West Ham. They also are they're on 28 games. So, but you're running of all the teams in that general vicinity is a little less tricky than the other teams around them. You've got the home game against United, but Newcastle, Sheffield United, Leeds, Wolves, Villa. Do you think that you can pull back that 6 points that's out there right now and get yourself back into a top 4 position?
I think anything's possible, but here's the thing. It's got to be one game at a time. You can't look at the whole schedule and say, oh, we got to do all this. You got to go one game at a time. And right now, all we can focus on is the Thursday match. Got to make sure. My feeling is we need at least a goal. If we get a goal, we're sitting pretty, because at that point, then Zagreb has to score a 4 in order to go ahead and move on. And that's always a tall order, even with, playing against, I guess it depends on who we put in the back. If we got Dyer and Sanchez, then of course it could be goal central. But if you put in Adewareld, Toby, and Sanchez, those guys play together rather well. Even though they put up fewer points or a lot fewer goals when those two are playing the center. So I'm hopeful that we can get at least a goal on Thursday. We had our makeup match coming up this weekend with Aston Villa, the one that was rescheduled, and they put Fulham in its place. That happens this weekend, because you'll notice if you take a look at our schedule, we got them now, and then we got them toward the end of the season in next to last game in May. So that's kind of odd. You don't normally play the same team twice in the same half of the schedule, but this has been an odd year, so things have been a little different now. Hopefully, with the COVID vaccinations being distributed, at least here in the States, and hopefully worldwide, I think Europe is also involved in getting some of those vaccinations out. If they can get to the players, perhaps maybe you can quell this COVID spread and not have these hiccups in the schedule and the rescheduling.
Matt, you had a question for Los.
Who's got a question?
Matt.
Yeah. What did you think of Kane? What did you think of Kane's challenge on Gabriel?
Oh, the one on the sideline?
Yeah, the one where he barged into his back.
That he didn't get a card. all I can do is look at that and say, "Yep, North London Derby, baby."
And the face of English football committing the foul is not going to probably get that call. He's going to be like, we'll just let him go on that one.
When I was
smile pretty, Harry. Smile pretty.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, if Xhaka's doing that, does he get sent off? Or like does, and I hate.
Oh,
Xhaka
probably,
so
because he's not English. He's not the English darling.
Yeah.
So yeah, he probably gets sent off.
Yeah, he deserves to. Xhaka.
I mean,
sorry, get him out of there. I can't stand that guy.
Well,
It's
And
just
we
kind
want
of
to
the point, you know.
welcome in somebody who has absolutely nothing to do with the North London Derby, other than his team is below both of those teams,
not anymore.
or was at the
Right.
start of these games.
Well,
British Will, another country where I'm from.
Before you let British Will say anything, are you going to let?
Well, Stead,
are you
this
gonna
is
let
where I
us
was going to tell Los.
kinda-
Oh yeah,
I have
Yeah,
held
hey.
the dam back as long as I could. Stead, Sean, he's all yours. Have fun. By the way,
you go first.
Okay.
I lost signal. I lost signal.
You know what? After losing the last 5 North London derbies, I was happy just to win the game. I actually think though that the game itself, the loss was worse for Spurs than the win was good for Arsenal. Arsenal didn't gain any really position. We're still waiting on teams to drop points for us to move in the 9th, for that matter. I thought though that to see how what that did to Spurs as far as a placement is concerned, I mean, outside of being happier of a win, I don't think it really did much for Arsenal's season beyond just kind of like kept the Band-Aid on the wound a little bit longer. And if nothing else, I'm happy that Arteta is saying, look, you're not going to push me around. You're not going to push me around. Aubameyang, you have an issue with being on time, and that is extraordinarily disrespectful in my book. I think these players are often talk about how this is a job. Yes, we love the game. But it's still our job. I was like, okay, great. So you're saying is that we shouldn't be as passionate with our expectations of you, but if it's a job for you, you should be a professional and get to work on time. And clearly that's a problem for you. There's actually a video and a photo of him driving one of his $100,000 automobiles down a 2-lane road in the middle of North London. And it was so funny to see this car that looked more out of place than it would on a NASA job site than it did driving down this road. And to know that your captain and star player decided to oversleep and get to the game late is just it's sad. I mean, it's really sad. I think that blemish is going to. I mean, it's just not as bad because Arsenal won. But I think that really, I'm glad Arteta is going to at least send the message. But that looks really bad for Aubameyang, because right now you're looking at a player who's making 250 to 300,000 pounds a week, who's not having his best season, who's been out of form, and who's slowly kind of creeping back into form to miss out on Arsenal's biggest game of the year. Because when Arsenal doesn't have anything really to play for, the biggest game of the year is a Spurs game. And while I know Liverpool fans say they would love to take him, and I wouldn't go that far as to say that I would get rid of him yet, but I will say that I am glad that hopefully the message has been sent that is not good enough. And also, you're not 23. You're 31 years old. Get to work on time. You have no excuse. Get to work on time. It's not that difficult. It really isn't. I'm sorry. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. So outside of that, I have to say that if I'm going to get another Arsenal jersey with an actual player on it and whose number, I am getting Emile Smith-Rowe. I have totally fallen in love with him. I mean, you guys heard me sing Bukayo Saka's praises throughout the year, and I think no less of him. But to have a guy come out there who is as gritty and tough as he is, and who is not afraid to go up against anybody, who will get mad every time you sub him out of the game, he takes knocks and gets back up and keeps playing. I'm grinning ear to ear, and whenever I see him on there, and he's thick, he's a big guy. And when I see him walk on the field in the starting 11, I smile. I go, all right, the defense has someone that they have to deal with, and that's not Aubameyang. And that he makes me smile. That's all I got to say. He makes me smile, and hopefully he stays red, and he stays North London red for as long as possible. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Croydon Messi is coming good, as they say. And, the game started, the game hadn't even started, and it was an interesting scenario when the news came out. And obviously, as soon as they put the started the program on Sky, to hear that Aubameyang had been dropped, Arteta was taking a big risk. That was a ballsy decision, because had we lost that game on Sunday, he'd have been under pressure, I think. From the board. I have to say, I wasn't confident going into the game at all. And Spurs were putting out their big guns. The only one missing was Ali. But I was very worried about Bale, because he had looked fantastic. The last league game he played, I can't remember, he smashed 4-1 or something. And I'm not that confident in Cedric. I sort of thought, oh God, that's not looking good on that side. And what I couldn't believe was, for the first 20 minutes, we looked as though we wanted to win, and Tottenham didn't really look as though they wanted to compete or win. So a couple of journalists have been saying, who were in the ground, that Spurs were playing a very high line, but they weren't doing a lot of pressing. And if you looked at what Burnley had done against us the previous week, which was press the crap out of us, and Burnley aren't even very well known for doing their pressing, that is one way to put us under severe pressure. I agree with what Lowe said. I think for the neutral, it was a good game.
I agree.
And what I couldn't understand is, when Spurs went down to 10 men, it looked for the last 10 minutes that we had 9 men to Spurs' 12 men.
It did.
So, you could very well have got the draw. I was surprised that Kane missed the easier of the 2 free kicks. When we gave that free kick away right in front of goal, about 22 yards out, I'm like going, uh-oh. But Spurs certainly needed the points more than we did if they want to finish top 4. But I'm delighted that North London is red. I think it's written in the stars that we might meet you in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, and we might have 2 more North London derbies to go before the end of this season.
Could happen.
Yeah. I agree, though. I think that the game was rather exciting. I think it was more exciting too when you compare it to the dullness that was the every other Premier League fixture over the weekend. I mean, you look at it. I mean, either you had a 5-0 game, but or every team scored one goal, and the
Or
whole,
0-0.
or 0-0. Yeah, the fixtures were
0-0.
quite boring. I woke up early to try to watch some games while before the rest of the family got woke up, and I ended up falling back to sleep. I mean, it was that boring, and so the at least there was some level of entertainment that the teams put on, as to say, like, this is still a derby game. We're still going to get at it, and they did. And I still wonder, though, to see Bale's body language when he got subbed out of that game. He was not pleased at all. And why was Mourinho so unable to get him the ball? That's what I didn't understand. I didn't
Well,
understand that.
We won the
Part
midfield battle.
Yeah.
Right. I think part of it is they were perhaps expecting Bale to come back a little more, and he wasn't coming back as much as he should have, probably to help out Doherty, and Doherty needed help. Let's just say he had a tragic
Tierney was
game.
eating him alive. He was.
Yeah, he was having a terrible game, so he could have used some help, and that actually would have been Bale. It's his side. He should have gone over there to go and help out on defense, but he didn't make the runs back. So it is what it is. But that's I think that's part of it,
Okay.
and that might be part of what Jose's I guess barking about, is that his fitness isn't where it needs to be. In other words, start running, buddy.
Yeah.
I think
that makes
that's
sense.
what he wants him to do.
Mhm.
I will say, and I tuned in ostensibly because I knew, given the bend of this group, it was going to be what we talked about this weekend. And I figured, all right, I'll watch it just because I know we're going to talk about it tonight. It did turn out to be one of the more entertaining games that I saw this week. It was good. Los, I'm not going to lie. I expected a little bit more out of Spurs than I got.
Hey, join the club.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Los,
As long as you don't
I
play
also
bad
agree,
with-
though. That team is loaded with talent. They're loaded. There's no
time.
way they should be in the position they're in. I mean, they're loaded.
And
It's ridiculous,
and
really.
it goes back to something that the two people in the former Jose Mourinho managers club, and Chelsea Mike is here now, so I can say that we told you about, like, you're going to have those games under Mourinho where you have the talent and you should perform better, but you don't. And before we kind of transition from this to other things in English football with all of us and Will and Mike, Los, I want to get your thoughts on, are y'all still good with Jose Mourinho, or has the luster started to wear off just a little bit?
Well, it's not much luster left. It was lustrous for a while there. It has worn off a little bit. But let me tell you, we're still in the hunt for Europa. We still have the final coming up in April, end of April, EFL Cup. We are still in the hunt for top four. I mean, it's not all done. I mean, just because the schedule says, well, you should win these, you got to go out and play them. And so the games still have yet to be played. I'm still, it's getting more like, looking a little more like Man City is going to go ahead and take the league. I don't see anybody challenging them, but I don't want to give it to them yet. Why? Because there's too many games left to play. So anything can happen on the field. It looks like they're going to win the league, and they probably will, but there's always a possibility that something could happen. And wouldn't that be strange? That would be something that the press would want to write about. If that happens, the fall of Man City, if that should happen to happen. But it's not likely to, but wouldn't that be a story?
Please take the Man City Cup. Please. Take it.
Y'all,
Please. Get it out of there. I can't stand it.
I'm
I
gonna
got all
need
kinds.
y'all
I got all kinds of requests.
Well, if
Okay,
Tottenham
I'll put
does
in all your
win-
requests with Spurs that we're supposed to take the cup from City. Everybody from Man
Ask the
City,
8-ball. Ask the 8-ball.
Man United, and Arsenal fans all want us to take the cup from Man
And
City.
Liverpool,
Got it.
and
And
Liverpool.
Liverpool too.
Liverpool.
Liverpool too. Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
but
the
Tom
entire
said, remember
footballing
this the
world
scenario
wants
that I gave you earlier?
What's
Yes.
All right, that's why you need Man City to win the Man City Cup this year.
No, that's the FA Cup.
No.
No,
None of that.
if Man City, if Spurs win the Man City Cup, then they automatically qualify for the Europa Conference League.
No, for the Conference League. Yeah.
All right,
I thought you were
so
talking
the
about
scenario
Europa
that I
League.
gave you involved required Liverpool to win the Champions League and not qualify for Europe, and Arsenal to win the Europa League and not qualify for Europe. And that was the only way that
Yeah.
Arsenal and Liverpool could screw Spurs out of a European place.
Yeah, I don't think I care that much. I want City to lose. I do. I don't. I'm sorry.
Me
I
too.
mean, because I thought about it.
This is
Because Mike,
this
that
is
was
the
a great
one time
point. That was
and
a
the one
great point.
show that we're going to get where an Arsenal fan is so willing.
I can't stand that team. I can't stand them. I can't stand them. Please. The only team I
All
can't
right.
stand more than that team is Manchester United. Please take that trophy.
Why
I
are we
can't.
still friends? Mikey,
What?
what was your what was your question for Los?
Oh, so let me ask you. Let's say they finish where they're at now, ish, somewhere from 8th to 10th, and they don't beat Man City. Does Mourinho come back? And does that change if they win the cup? If they finish, 7-9 in the league? Because to me, they have all the talent. They should be in a European place. Like, it shouldn't even
Right.
be a question.
right. So now, okay. First off, you're saying if they finish about 6th or 7th as it is, and if they don't win the EFL Cup,
Yeah, and is it different if they do?
well, that still leaves one other tournament, and that's the Europa League. So, like I said, we're vying for 3 possible things here. Stead, what do you got? Flies over there? Just on the
Sorry.
bottom?
I've had this huge handprint from my daughter on my screen, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay, but
I think it's broken now.
we're still vying
Sorry.
for 3 different things right now, and that's all we've got to contend with now. That's what we got to focus on. And the first of those is dealing with the Europa second leg of the round of 16 this coming Thursday against the coachless Dinamo Zagreb. So that's I don't know if you heard, Mike. You just joined us here, but maybe you read about it that he's in prison now for fraud. I'm not sure what kind of fraud. I didn't read about that, but I'm like, okay, you're going to be gone for a while. I wonder who takes
He
his
bet
spot.
on Spurs to win 2-0 at your place. That's the fraud.
Oh, he won. He won then. That's more like that's not what Pete Rose did, because Pete Rose actually bet on the Reds to win. So
And
never
that's
bet
why
on
Pete Rose
never bet
isn't
on
in the
lose.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, he should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Completely
another-
different
let's-
conversation.
Let's
It is
say
a different
they
conversation.
strike out. Let's say they strike out. Mourinho back, yes or no?
Oh, you're saying all 3 counts? They do nothing? I say he's still back. You know why? They owe him a lot of money, and they're not one to just let money just be squandered. They're going to get their pound of flesh if they can. No matter how many Spurs fans cry for his head, Mourinho's back. He's because of the contract.
I
You'll-
can't say I
you'll
know
come
what
with
that's like.
So
We
the
did too.
revelation
70
we
million
did get-
pounds is what that's like.
So the revelation that we did get tonight, though, is that Spurs fans, the luster has started to wear off the special one. So I want to bring in 2 good friends of ours, British Will, Mike. How you doing this evening?
Doing
Um,
very well, thank you.
Oh,
Mike, we're going to start with you, and talk a little bit about Chelsea, so that all 6 of us can unload on British Will and Liverpool in a couple of minutes because that's what's going to be the fun way to end up on the show. Oh, as he gives us
You know
the
what
peace
my
sign.
question's gonna
Dude,
be?
Matt is drooling.
And I'm not quite there. Oh, and he left.
No.
Well,
Oh,
well, come on. Hey, at least I faked technical difficulties.
You fake technical difficulties, and it's a picture of you in a Batmobile.
There he
That's
is.
not
There
fair.
he is.
Hey, G said something about
Where'd he
crayfish.
go?
A crayfish boil being a bucket list. No. Riding shotgun in the Batmobile. That was bucket list.
We
That
all
was
have
amazing.
our bucket list things. We can talk about them. Mikey, he's Tuchel's still unbeaten in the league.
still unbeaten in all competitions.
But are you convinced?
Yeah, well, I like where we're going. I like what I've seen, and I think they're sort of playing up to their abilities at this point in time. I mean, the draw at Leeds this week was disappointing, but it still wasn't a loss. We still took a point out of it, and it was the kind of game that under Frank we were losing. So the ship's been righted in that sense, and I think he was experimenting. He put out 4 at the back to start, and that's the kind of game to do it in. I'm not that disappointed. And you know what? We took the points we needed to against Everton and against Liverpool when they were sitting at 5th and 6th in the league, right behind us for that 4th spot. So do I like what I've seen so far? Yes, because we're getting the points that we need. Are we playing electric, open, free-flowing, energetic football? No, but whatever. I mean, like, part of the reason that I once loved Jose Mourinho was because the football we were playing was terrible, and we were winning trophies. At the end of the day, it's all about the trophies. And I don't know that Chelsea is necessarily going to win any trophies this year. I mean, obviously we're still in the FA Cup. Next week, we've got a good draw against Sheffield United, and we'll see how we do in the Champions League this week. But that was, we were tactical in that first leg. No need to think that we wouldn't be again. I'm trending optimistic after just being in such a depth, around January.
Instead, Matt, remember earlier before he got on when I said the identity of Chelsea football is boring 1-0 football? I promise you can rewind this. I said it. Perhaps y'all should get used to that.
Well, I encourage everyone to download this pod and listen to it as many times as they can during any given week. Promo spot. But I mean, I think so much of their identity is tied up in Mourinho. Isn't it? I mean,
but that's how they set that, and that's been the more successful of the dynamics that they've had has been defensive grind out victories. That's when y'all have been at your best and won titles, is when you play that type of stuff. One of the things that we are going to need to figure out, though, as far as it goes with us over on this side of the pond in Chelsea right now, is the situation with Tuchel and Pulisic. And that has all the looks of not coming to a happy conclusion. He played him at that kind of right back spot this weekend, and subbing out after 68, 70 minutes. And it didn't I know he had played him there in a more three-back system when he was at Dortmund, but this was a slightly different sort of lineup, and it didn't translate as well. Clearly, it wasn't where Pulisic is more comfortable playing now. Where is this relationship going? Or is this one of those ones where we're just waiting on Pulisic's eventual exit? You know, Tuchel said, like, he's a quality player. I want to play him, but I know what he can do in these sorts of situations, so I'm not playing him, which after all this time, I'm like, yo, if you really believe in him, play him.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I get the frustration being an American myself, owning a Christian Pulisic jersey, where he seemed to just feature so prominently in Frank's system and in his lineup any given week. But here's what I'll say: is he still scored only one goal this year? I mean, even when he was playing constantly. You know, his production this year hasn't been there. He's been hurt. So, I mean, to me, I still want to see him in that lineup. I think he's an asset, and especially, I don't think there's a situation where, you know, Ziyech should play and he shouldn't. I just think he's a better player than Ziyech. But, you know, Ziyech brings the left foot there. You know, I mean, they have so much forward talent, so much offensive talent that they've invested so much money in that, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to be unhappy. I think if Mason Mount wasn't just like constantly playing his soul out every week, looking like every bit the next Frank Lampard, you know, I think that there would be a position there for him, but I don't necessarily think that. I mean, you know, everything's kind of fluid with that forward five right now. Calum Hudson-Odoi has emerged, but does his stock go up and down? And then, you know, I mean, I don't know if Pulisic is going to be there for the long term, but I mean, they gave him the number 10. Somebody wants him there, so you know, I mean,
that was Lampard though. No.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you want the short answer, I'll give it 50-50. I don't think it ends poorly, but him being there, I think is 50-50.
So I'm going to set up this next part of what's going on with the visual. I don't know how people's screens, if they're watching us on YouTube, are looking. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's clearly not going to look like this. But we do this on Zoom. So I have 7 tiles sitting in front of me. Sean, myself, and Matt across the top. The next row is Stead, Los, and Mike, and then at the bottom as well. This is where I feel like it is the perfect time to unload on British Will.
One moment, Mike. Just can I respond
So
to
I was
Chelsea
going to
Mike?
let British Will get his shot out at Chelsea Mike before I released the entire Kraken, because it is looking like a very much a funnel pointed at British Will. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy the next couple of minutes on my podcast as all of us just target in on the lower quadrant or the lower third of my screen. So, well, yes, by all means.
So I think that Chelsea, Mike, you've had a bit of an interesting point there about Christian Pulisic in your attack. And then it's been brought up that, he's only scored 1 goal and he's only assisted 1 goal in 20 games this season. That's pretty cool to see. Hakim Ziyech has scored 1 goal and assisted 3 this season. There's always the debate about who's better and who creates more and who does more, and who's been more injured and who's been more out of the team. I just simply think that Christian Pulisic isn't going to survive the Premier League. There's nothing there's no way in the Premier League for a player to be hyped and then survive it. It's a very difficult league to get through that pressure. And I think that, as was brought up, Christian Pulisic's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's an American. He was deemed as the future of American soccer. So, for him to go to a team like Chelsea and then only produce numbers like that, and then Chelsea being a results-driven team, that's not going to work out for him. He needs to get back into Germany. He needs to get back into a team that will play him at his preferred position where he can score goals. And he honestly, the best thing he can do is go to another top flight team, probably not in England. And to get my shots in about Liverpool, the only person on this podcast that can give me any shot about Liverpool is Chelsea Mike, because Chelsea is the only other team represented on this podcast that is in the major European competition, which is the Champions League. And, Matt, you can hold off on your conversation right now, because I can see that you've got a Champions League patch on your Manchester United jersey. So you know that Manchester United is not in that competition. So how about you all have at it and enjoy the fact
but there is also the fact that every one of our teams are currently, I shouldn't say everyone, because Spurs and Arsenal are below them. Matt, for the sake of good radio, I'm going to unleash you first.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just kind of want to go back to, I wish we had playback on this podcast where we could, kind of go back and say that Liverpool wasn't going to lose.
Well, I'll do it for you. I'll act it out.
Cup loss.
That's right.
I do want to say,
Will's already transcribed that whole podcast.
I know, that's my favorite part.
I'll act out my scene from January 5th or whenever it was. Liverpool's not going to lose a single game until the end of the season. It's going to be 96 points. Just you watch.
Are you willing to admit now that it won't be 96 points?
No.
You do understand that they can't possibly get to 96 points.
I understand that it's mathematically impossible, but as the eternal optimist.
Do you think you guys are going to make Champions League?
Matt, before you go in, I would like to admit that these two have never met in person that I know of. I'm trying to set that
actually
one
might
up
on Sunday, though.
I'm trying to set that one up because we need a separate video cast of when British Will and Matt meet for the first time. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think that could be like the end of the world.
I don't know. I actually like Will. The sad thing is he is a Liverpool fan. It's kind of like, you see someone that, they're just they're downtrodden, they're making wrong choices in their life, and you're just like, at the bottom of it all, there's a good person there, and you maybe can convert them, or maybe you can't, but you see them through it.
I did put him in. He will tell you though, once for a skit, I did dress him in a Manchester United jersey, or I portrayed him wearing a Manchester United jersey. He wants to be a Manchester United fan. He just doesn't.
I think he does. I think deep down inside, it is something that he really wants. No, I don't. I kind of feel bad. I feel bad. Like, it's kind of like, I'm so happy that Liverpool is doing poorly. They won today, so it kind of took out a lot of steam. I really wish you guys had lost today, and I just feel like he deserved
so
to drop
honestly,
points.
Will, at this point, we know the 96 points is out. If I catch you in a moment of honesty, I'm going to guess that you will admit that the second place is out.
Most likely, yes.
Right.
I think it's
That's
a lot
that's
more
going to be the
achievable
closest
than the
that we,
96
that's,
points. Look, I think most likely, yes. 9 seasons out of 10, yes. But you know, it's a possibility.
If we catch you in a moment of full and true honesty, not too many guys soccer honesty, but full and true honesty as we get ready for this one. What is a good end to the season for Liverpool?
Good end to the season for Liverpool. Champions League final or Champions League semi-final appearances. Not rushing players back, getting players back slowly, being intelligent with their game, not being stupid, not rushing into anything, and hopefully, well, I think it's a good chance that Liverpool does get into the Champions League next season in some way, shape, or form.
So which
I think
team
it's a good chance that Liverpool will make it into the Champions League next season, and you know, as Los and Schrodinger are saying, Klopp's going nowhere.
Klopp's going nowhere.
That's not a question among Liverpool fans. That's a question among journalists who want to sell newspapers, or sorry, clicks on the internet. And it's also a question among Chelsea Mikes of the world.
Who are used to managers getting sacked when they really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And to respond to Matt, it is fun to talk about that.
But I also think that a good season for Liverpool is developing these backups that they now suddenly have in the centre-back position. We're seeing 2 centre-backs finally playing together with a centre defensive mid in front of them. And that's happened for the last 2 games, and Liverpool's won the last 2 games. Do I think that's a precursor for winning every single game in the remaining of the season? Realistically, no, but I think it's a very good step in the right direction. Because I think that the person that we've missed the most is Virgil van Dijk, and the person we've missed the second most is Fabinho. And that's just simply because he's been asked to play in the centre-back position. And I don't think that people around the world gave him enough credit in Liverpool's title victory last season. And I think that he's sort of earning that identity in the Liverpool fans. That they're like, oh, wait, hold on a moment. There was a reason that we won the title last year. But now I know that you're all going to come in, pile on.
I'm still in charge of this one. Okay, so you say Champions League. Matt, I got you back on this one. With 11 points, you're not taking over United. So which one of the Champions League current ones, Leicester or Chelsea, is Liverpool overtaking to get into the top 4?
Bayern Munich.
All right, and that ends the truthful part of our.
That's a great comeback. Yeah.
Where's Roberto? Where's Roberto?
Not today.
Oh,
That's a great comeback.
I can't do anything with it.
No,
I don't know why I even
honestly,
do this in.
I think it's going to be, if I'm looking at the schedules for the rest of the season, Leicester, they're overperforming. I think that that's a bit of a stretch on my point. And you know, I said they couldn't overtake Manchester United, and they're on 57 points. And you know, I think it's a bit of a stretch, but honestly, I think Liverpool's best shot is winning the Champions League, and I think it's something that they're perfectly capable of doing. And they're the only team in the Premier League that has consistently proven that they are perfectly capable of winning the Champions League if they need to, if they have the drive towards doing it. And I think this season that they have proven that, like, this team's not given up on playing football, and it's not given up on playing Jurgen Klopp football. And I think Jurgen Klopp football still works in Europe. It doesn't work in the Premier League right now, but it will again next season.
All right. And wow. Yeah, Matt, you get the last shot. No, Matt,
Okay.
not Mike.
Okay, it's not a shot. I honestly want to know. I know you're an optimist, but I want to know your perspective of, let's say Liverpool get knocked out Champions League next round, and you guys, you finish something like 8th. You don't make Europe next year. Aside from just getting players back healthy, is there something that you want to see in the offseason? At what point do you kind of would you I know you're an optimist again. So what point do you kind of say this year is lost? At what point would you say that? And what do you want to have happen going into next year that assures that it doesn't happen again?
Look, should Liverpool get knocked out next round, which all honesty is a possibility, it's the Champions League, anything can happen. I'd say what needs to happen is a bit of a reshuffle in the idea of how Klopp is going to be playing, because he's currently trying to fit in Thiago into this team. And as much as Bayern Rob would like to say Thiago is the world's greatest footballer, he doesn't fit in the Premier League and he doesn't fit in Liverpool this season. And yeah, I genuinely think he was a great player at Bayern Munich, and I think he was a good signing for Liverpool, but a smart signing for Liverpool, but he's not panned out. And I don't think that's anything to do with the negative chatter about him on the internet. I think it's just because I don't like seeing the way he plays. So I think there's the reshuffling of a hardworking midfield. Get both the hardworking midfielders back playing in the midfield. And then also, I'm sorry, Roberto Firmino, maybe you're going to transition to a hardworking midfielder. Bring in someone that you can afford to bring in at striker, maybe put Diogo Jota up at striker, but rethink the way you're going to be playing a little bit. But I think that this season is such an anomaly that big conclusions can be drawn, but they can't be made, if that makes sense. So the plans for the big conclusion can be drawn up, but they can't be made this season. And with a manager like Jurgen Klopp and a team like Liverpool, I think that you need to have a very hard look at the future plans before you finalize them.
All right, Mikey, you get the last comment before we need to get up out of here.
Okay, it's kind of quick and it's sort of softball, though it's going to be hard hitting. Well, what about the absolute free fall your team has been in gives you the optimism to think that they're going to rise in the standings from where they are now? I mean, what is it about your team that makes you think that this is going to be turned around quickly? There's only 9 games left in the season.
I think I have 2 sentences. There are 9 games left in the season, and it's Liverpool Football Club. They haven't let me down in the last 5 years.
So it's
right.
blind
It's
optimism.
just history. I mean,
All right.
it's not blind optimism.
Okay.
They're doing well, but you're right. There is reason for concern. But I still think it's going to happen.
All right, so we got to get up out of here. Mostly because, Sean.
No, I'm saying
No, well, this is we got to get up out of here because there's a T20 match tomorrow.
Oh, is
early
that?
in the morning.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there is. You're right. Yes. Yeah.
India, England.
Yeah.
Los, read the 8 ball real quick, Los.
Real quick, is Christian Pulisic leaving Chelsea at the end of the season? Magic 8 Ball says it is certain.
Ooh.
Oh,
All right. Well, we came back from a brief hiatus, and this is what you got. Don't know how to explain that one. I want to give a big shout out to Andy the Hammer. Thank you for coming on, talking a little bit of West Ham, giving us some thoughts on the NCAA tournament. Sean, we'll talk a little bit later so that you can get your bets in and figure out how to bet this, because I can make sure that you lose all the money that you win at Cheltenham tomorrow
Okay.
in the NCAA tournament. Thank you, Coach Matt and London Sean, for coming on. Chelsea Mike, British Will, and Los for joining us. And as always, to producer Stead, who tries very, very, very hard to make
Does
sure
very
that
well.
trains run on time and that we stick to what we're supposed to do. And it's not his fault when we don't, because 99% it's my fault.
Chat feature's only so strong.
Yes. Once again, because I have the excuse that I can do it, I'm blaming it on my fro, which has somehow shrank during the course of this show. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, this has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did really, 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 really bad, like unusually bad this week. So we'll try and do unusually good next week. Thank you. Have a good week. Happy soccer. Cheers.
Cheers.